What are agents and publishers looking for in the opening 10 pages of a manuscript? My name is Jean. I'm an author, editor, publishing professional. I help you make your writing better. A couple of different questions rolled into this one big question, and I want to address them kind of independently. And this came in on YouTube. That is the advantage of being able to type for a long time on YouTube, is that I can get better and more clear questions that come in. So what are agents and editors looking for? Is it that just that the writer is engaging and they know basic grammar? Yes. That is a big part of this. One of probably the most common problems that shows up in opening pages is that they just are not good. And I know that sounds really mean and really condescending, and I really try to be encouraging here on my channel. But when a book pages come in and there's no grasp of basic grammar, spelling problems, it's really clunky, it's unclear who is talking, we're not breaking paragraphs the way that we're supposed to, it feels really contrived, it feels like there's a lot of run-on sentences, it's very unclear what is happening all over the place. This is very common. People get really excited about the story that they are telling, and they think, oh my gosh, somebody's going to steal my idea, or somebody's going to get there before me, and so they start querying after they've started working on the first draft of their first project ever, and it's really clear that that's what's happening. And so that's going to be a rejection, and almost always a literary agent is going to say, I do not have the time to coach you on how to write sentences. I do not have the space in my workday to be able to teach you what a paragraph should consist of, or how to write dialogue that sounds like actual human beings are saying it. Those are craft things that you need to learn on your own. So yes, they are looking for that, and that will be a fairly big chunk of people that get automatically rejected for things of that nature. Slightly more nuanced in that is the writer engaging? That's going to become subjective. Does this voice resonate with me? Does this sound fun and quirky and light when I expected it to? Does it sound dark and brooding when I expected it to, right? Are they writing in a way that draws me forward rather than explaining a bunch of stuff that happened in the background? That is also an extremely common issue in opening pages, that people feel the urge to explain everything about this character's backstory and how they got to where they are, and when that's usually not going to be helpful. These pages need to draw you forward and pull us into the story rather than constantly looking back at all the other stuff that happened before this. So yes, they are looking for engaging writing. They are looking for basic structure. Those are two different things. And yes, those are very, very commonly what we are hoping for. We are always hoping for those. And it is a common thing for people to be rejected for those things missing in the opening pages. Then a harder question to answer is, are they looking for specific story elements and writing styles? So writing styles kind of goes with what we talked about up here. So if your query letter says that you are pitching a light and fluffy rom-com, and you make a bunch of cute little one-liner pun style jokes throughout the query letter, I would expect that voice to show up in those opening pages as well. I would expect you to sound light and fluffy and fun, and what we want the pages and the pitch to match each other, at least to a certain degree. They're not always going to necessarily be perfect, but we should have a general sense of the two things matching. Same thing if you are pitching a literary fiction and you have talked about your MFA and that you were shortlisted for these awards, I would expect those opening pages to be very lyrical and very prose focused, rather, and very character and intrinsically focused, rather than very plot heavy. So yes, we are looking for some things to match the stuff that you're selling and the way that you sold it in the query letter. Specific story elements, that's less of what we are looking for. And if you are talking about plot points, the only plot point that is really going to happen in those opening pages is your hook. You're only giving usually the first 10 pages. Occasionally you will see 25 or 30 pages as a submission requirement, but that's usually not going to get you to your inciting incident. It is almost always going to be just your hook that is in there. So we're not looking for plot elements necessarily, but we are looking for things on the page that help demonstrate your understanding of story. Are you incorporating sensory details in a way that demonstrate who your character is and what is important to them? Are you demonstrating what your character wants? Are you demonstrating a forward-looking momentum, a plot-pushing momentum? Even if your plot is very quiet and your stakes are very intimate, we should still have a sense of being pulled forward and into the story. Now, does that all sound hard? to do in 10 pages? It is. And literary agents and publishers are not looking at those 10 pages with like a checklist of all of these things must happen, but they are looking for a general sense of, do these pages demonstrate your ability to tell a story in the way that we sort of expect stories to be told? That does not mean that every single story must be told the same way, but it does mean that we have a general sense of like how stories open. Are you meeting those expectations? And if you're not, are you subverting those expectations in a way that feels professional and fresh and interesting? Or are you attempting to subvert expectations and it just feels messy and like you missed the mark? And that can be very difficult to judge if you are a newer writer, which is why I give such like aggressively conservative advice about learning structure and learning craft rather than striking out and doing something super unusual on your first go.